Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Australia, English language, released in the year 2010, directed by Andrew Traucki, and this film is called The Reef. So The Reef is about a group of friends who are travelling through Queensland, and they're doing a little bit of holidaying, and they decide to go sailing in the ocean. So when they're sailing, they run into a problem when they hit a rock. Now the rock causes the boat to capsize, and now the friends are floating on a wreckage. So the main character decides that he is going to take this group, and they're going to try and swim to an island that they think is a few kilometres away, but they're not quite sure. So this causes a little bit of doubt within the group, and this main character is trying to convince them, but the character who actually owns the boat is trying to convince them to stay because he does fishing in this area and he knows what's out there. So there's a lot of reluctance in there, there's a lot of second guessing, but the main character manages to convince everybody to actually swim there, to actually get to this island because it could be their only hope of survival, and he tells them that the current is actually sweeping them further away. So the more they think about it, the more trouble they're going to be facing. So they end up reluctantly all getting into the water. Then halfway to the island they realise they've been stalked by a great white shark who is keen to make them its next meal, and so it's going to turn into a fight for survival. So whether or not this group of people can stay off the dinner plate of the shark is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Reef. Although this is not a perfect film, I still think this is one of the most terrifying experiences I've had in a very long time, because Andrew Traucki really understands what it is to capitalise off someone's primal fear. Now for me, I have a fear of the ocean, and the reason I have a fear of the ocean is because I don't know what's underneath. And it's such a vast area, it's almost like out of space where it's uncharted, and there's all kinds of terrors that we imagine underneath the water. And I think that the director, he creates something that allows you to use that imagination. He creates that terror of the ocean and uses it in a very sadistic, nerve-shredding way. So the movie is about a shark, but the shark is very sparingly used, and this is less is best, and this is what actually creates that demon inside your mind and actually freaks you out. And so the whole point of fearing the ocean is not knowing what is actually underneath you, and because the majority of the film you don't know where this shark is, it's using that ocean, and it's using that fearful sort of method that the ocean has to its full advantage. So you're constantly wondering where it is. You know it's around, but where is it? And you're always anticipating at any moment that someone could get attacked, so you're always on the edge of your seat, you're always chewing your fingernails, and by the end of the film you're probably not going to have any fingernails left. So this is what Andrew Traucki does so well. He did it so well in his other film called Black Water, which was about a crocodile, and once again you didn't see the crocodile very often, but you knew it was around and it could strike at any minute, so you're always left on the edge of your seat at things that aren't particularly interesting in a traditional sense. So you could be just staring at some water, and at any minute you're expecting that really bad thing to happen. So it's like a sadistic game that Andrew Traucki knows he is playing, and he's just making you tag along, and you're basically at the mercy of this director. So he knows exactly what he's doing, he knows exactly that primal fear that we have, and he's just having a lot of fun doing it. And I just thought it was a very entertaining film in that way. So the majority of the film is taking place out above the water level. So you've got these characters who are just floating around. There's an odd shot of a shark, but it's very sparingly. So you know the shark's there. It sets the standard that something very dangerous is in the water, but the majority of the scare factor in this film comes from the mind. It comes from the paranoia. It comes from not knowing. As I said, it's that old ancient primal fear, not knowing what's underneath you. You're worrying that something could bump into you that's very dangerous, and you're constantly worrying in this film. So it's a very psychologically tormenting movie that I thought was complemented very well with a shark film. So the shark is it's a real shark that they use, and I just thought that it was some of the camera angles that they used to actually document this shark were absolutely effective. They were very, very terrifying, but as I said, because it's used sparingly, its majority of it is taking place inside the mind, and you can use these characters as a vessel in putting yourself into their situation and wondering what you would do in a similar circumstance. And just thinking about that sends a chill down my spine, and that's the reason why the movie works so well, is that yes, most of us do have a fear of that ocean, and this is what makes the film so terrifying. And so it works on so much more than just a standard shark film. A lot of these other shark films, you see the shark a lot and you can get a sense of control, and so because you get a sense of control, it does eliminate a lot of that paranoia, it does eliminate a lot of that primal fear. But what Jaws did so well was it showed the shark very sparingly. Once again, you didn't know when this shark was going to attack, and that was what made people afraid to get in the water. And after seeing this film, you will get a lot of similarities with Jaws, in that not only will you not want to get into the ocean, you probably not even want to get into a swimming pool after seeing this film, because it shows water for how terrifying it can actually be, and it shows a shark how terrifying that can be as well. So So in an age where a lot of these shark films are making a mockery out of the subgenre, such as Sharknado and all those other disgraceful films, I think it's a welcome breath of fresh air that Andrew Traucki creates something that has a lot of respect for the audience, and it creates something that I think is very effective. You know, the ocean, how dangerous that can be. It's very beautiful to look at. This film is very beautiful as far as the vast ocean, the scenery is concerned, but at the same time, underneath that water is a completely different world and a completely terrifying world where it's very different from what you're actually seeing. So it's a very psychological impact that the movie has, and I just thought that it was executed very well, and it does make it a very on the edge of your seat sort of spine-tingling film. Unfortunately, there are a few problems, but they're not major problems. Is that the characters are very one-dimensional. They really don't have anything going for them, and you don't really care about them when they actually face these fears. And so if they get killed, you don't feel like you're losing a family member. You just feel like you're losing a character in a film. But as I said, the saving grace is that the shark attacks and the shark sequences are so well done that you don't necessarily care about what's going on to these characters, but it's about putting yourself into that situation, so you're actually experiencing what they're going through. But I thought it could have been a little bit better if it actually felt like you were in the water with family members and you didn't want the person next to you to die, so you feared for them as well as fearing what you would do. But unfortunately, the script doesn't allow these characters to blossom to anything great. There's a lot of Australian actors in this film that act in a lot of TV movies, and I actually thought that the aspects that take place out of the water and the aspects that aren't related to the shark actually felt like a television movie, and it didn't feel like it was as good as the horror set pieces later in the movie. So it's a little bit of a slow start that I didn't really think went anywhere. I didn't hate the characters, but I just didn't get enough value in these characters to really relate to them and really feel as though this was a family or a group of friends that I wanted to see get through to the end. I thought the ending was very good, but it was just the horror set pieces that really excel in this film, and I just think Andrew Traucki shows how talented he can be. I thought there were some very stupid decisions made in this film. They were very stereotypical decisions where I felt as though they weren't really looking after themselves, their own well-being. It's more a case of putting themselves in a horror situation so the audience could feel scared. But I just think a slightly more realistic approach to that would have actually made it a lot better. There is a sense of a suspension of disbelief that does contradict the realistic moments that the shark has, but that is not a massive criticism coming from a shark film. It could have been a lot worse, but I just think as far as psychological terror and that primal fear terror is something that makes the film worth viewing, and as a result of that, I'm going to give The Reef 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.